All right, as marketers, we're inundated with so many different social media platforms. How do you keep that content engine humming, right? How do you continue to create so much more content that it's going to make you more efficient and more effective as a marketer? Well, in this episode, I'm going to break down specifically one way to create one piece of content that'll create out at least 10 to 15 different pieces of content for you that you can leverage across all your social platforms. Let's get into it. Leverage this one piece of content and I'm going to 15x it, right? And I'm going to show you the tactics and strategies that you can do as well. So, as a medical marketer, life science, biotech, that's my focus, right? That's my jam. That's what I've been doing for the last decade. Well, I have clients coming to me all the time saying, hey, how do we create a podcast? How do we create an audio podcast? How do we create a video podcast, right? How do we leverage those, like creating shorter clips that we can put on Instagram and YouTube Reels and YouTube Shorts, obviously. And so what I'm going to do in this episode is really break down a tactic where you can do that. And with the advent of AI, well, it makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to talk about specifically one AI tool that I leverage specifically to help me be my trusty sidekick and crank out a lot of different versions, because I'm recording this right now and obviously we're live, but it's obviously a horizontal format. And when you go to Instagram Reels and you go to YouTube Shorts, well, we all know that that's a vertical environment. So what can you use? And so I'm going to get into and talk about that AI tool I leverage as well. And again, I'm just looking at my screen here just to see if anybody else may be joining the live broadcast. And I'm going to get specific in what tools I'm using to do this live broadcast. And then the tool that I'm using, I'm going to also leverage for creating a better version afterwards. So meaning like this is a live version, right? I'm going to be able to save this onto my machine and be able to do some editing if I want to, right? To create another piece of content, right? This is the first piece of content. So again, I'm just kind of buying some time here just to see, again, if anybody's going to join the party here. I need to turn this down. And so let's just get into it, right? So ultimately, again, if you're watching this, whether it's live or on the recorded version, that's the goal, right? Is to create multiple pieces of content. So if we think about this for a moment, this live broadcast, right? That's one piece of content. So I've got a little cheat sheet here that I'm going to look at to reference what other pieces of content that I'm going to leverage from this YouTube live. And I could have streamed actually on LinkedIn as well, right? This is kind of a test. I want to test this out for YouTube, see how it goes. And then potentially next week, what I'll do is a live version of this, but then also broadcast on LinkedIn as well. So right there, potentially doing a live version, now you're on two different platforms right away. So the goal in this episode is to break down 15 pieces of content from one piece. So let's get into it. One live on YouTube, just as we're doing here, I'm going to turn this live version into, again, we're recording this too. So I'm going to actually put this on my playlist for a podcast. So that's the second piece of content that you can create. And I don't know if I'm going to do any editing from this live version. I need to look at it a little bit. I may cut the front end of it off, right? And then at least get into the podcast. That's one thing that you can really look at too from an editing perspective is, do you really need to edit it, right? Is it good is it good to go, right? Or do you need to get in there and, splice some things in there? Do you just need to cut the front end and maybe the back end? That's what I'm thinking I'm probably going to do with that to create that second piece of content. So the third piece of content is I'm going to extract the audio probably from the recorded version that I go on as far as the podcast link on YouTube. So again, we've got the live version, we got the recorded version on the podcast, and then we've got the audio. So that's going to be the third piece of content. I'm going to also get this recording transcribed, and hopefully it can get it transcribed to get enough to where I can really post an article from it. This is more conversational. What I do with a lot of my podcast is really get specific, and it's almost like training, more of a tutorial, those sorts of things. So it's really easy to turn into an article. So that's the fourth piece of content. The fifth piece of content is I'm going to repurpose the recording, probably not the live version, but the recorded that I do the editing on. That's going to be specifically for LinkedIn newsletter. I can also turn that into a LinkedIn post, right? So think about it for a moment there. So you've got LinkedIn, hopefully you're doing a newsletter. If you're not, I'll include an example of my newsletter that I crank out. It's like a monthly newsletter, but there's formats to that. There's like sections to that newsletter. So one of the sections is about leveraging, content, reaching niche HCPs. Well, this piece of content can go in there, right? So that's the fifth and almost sixth piece of content that you could create. So if you've got the newsletter, obviously, and then you've got the post actually on LinkedIn. Where we go from there is really leveraging an AI tool. I'm going to drop this in the description below and the notes, but the AI tool I use, it's called Opus Clip. Opus Clip takes any type of long format and they turn it into shorter clips. What I love about this is when they do the shorter clips, it takes the horizontal view and it turns it into a vertical view. So I can leverage those pieces specifically for YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. It's great. The other great thing that it does, it specifically creates the vertical version, but it also puts auto captions in there, and it has some really cool fonts that it includes. And then also it will put emojis in there. It's like literally what I'll do is put, when I post the actual video on YouTube, not the live version, but the recorded version, once I post it in the podcast section, the play section, I'll put that link into Opus Clip, hit like enter, right? And then it'll generate, sometimes it's 10 different clips, right? And those 10 different clips are extracted from that long form piece of content, right? So, and it actually grades it. So it'll say, hey, this is a 99 like level clip. And you can tell it, hey, do I want 15-second clips, 30-second clips, or 60-second clips? Typically for me, I'm doing like a 60-second clip, right? And that 60-second clip, I'll have multiple ones. Like I said, I've dropped in a YouTube link specifically for one of the podcasts. It's like maybe a 7-minute video, and it cranked out like 10 different pieces of vertical videos that I could leverage for TikTok, Instagram, and then YouTube Shorts, obviously. So right there, I think it went over 15 clips, right? But that's how you really repurpose all these pieces of content, and you've got to connect the dots. So where I want to connect the dots from this live broadcast, I'm using, it's called StreamYard. You may have heard of it, maybe not. StreamYard's great. I've been leveraging it probably for 6 months now. I've also leveraged other platforms like Wistia, Vimeo, Vidyard as well. But what I love about StreamYard is you can connect all your social platforms. You can do a lot of different formats when it comes to on the screen. So let's say if I had someone else that I wanted to join this stream, I could easily put them in there. So I can't show that as an example because there's no one in the waiting room, but maybe I'll do that the next time. So StreamYard's great. StreamYard's really easy because then I can just connect to whatever social platform I want to. So this particular case, I am streaming to YouTube. You can also stream to LinkedIn as well. That's where a majority of my audience is. So that's why I want to test, learn, and optimize based on this recording to see how it does. And then I'll broadcast hopefully soon on LinkedIn as well. And I'll probably simulcast, right? So I'll do it on YouTube and then also LinkedIn. So if you are trying to educate your niche HCP audience, think about how you can leverage a tool like StreamYard and also vidIQ and get those, I'm sorry, not vidIQ, that's another AI tool, Opus Clips, right? So if you can figure out StreamYard and Opus Clip, how you can leverage those platforms to crank out much more content, that's going to make you much more efficient, right? You're going to have so many more pieces of content. Again, this one piece of content really is going to crank out well above 15 pieces of content. So as you map out your content strategy for the rest of this year and going into next year, hopefully this has been helpful. And if it has, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Bye for now.